What's up, guys? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am just feeling so excited to be here with you guys, listening to my voice. Maybe you're seeing my face, seeing the beard. I'd like to hear the feedback. You know, the beard is something new, so maybe in this last few episodes, you'll notice like, oh, Halsey has a beard. And I thought Halsey was not old, but his beard looks gray. And so I agree with you. It looks gray. It's weird. I'm only 36, just about to have my first kid, and I'm already gray. So I don't know what's going on, but special thanks to MHM Publishing, Vertical Magazine, for making the Vertical HeliCASTS platform possible for my podcast, the Helicopter Podcast, and of course, all the other podcasts on the platform, including The Real Rescue. I feel like I saw Jason Quinn hanging out with our recent guest. Is that correct, Matt?
That's right. Yeah, he's part of the emerging professionals.
Well, we're excited to talk more about that. And this is Matt Goodrich coming to, where are you coming from? Where are we talking to you from?
I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana right now.
Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, all the way from Indiana. Matt, welcome to the Helicopter Podcast. I stumbled across your LinkedIn profile. I think it was specific to a post about the emerging professionals that caught my eye. I wasn't familiar with it. And so I'm like, well, man, if I'm not familiar with it, maybe some other folks aren't, and it could be a fun podcast topic. So short notice, you agreed to come on the show. You got family in town, all this stuff, and you made it for us. So I am grateful, and I know our audience is grateful too. Welcome, Flying Air Medical, kind of an interesting background. A lot of my guests on the show, well, that's not true. I have some second career folks, but by and large, a lot of my folks on the show, you know, have always wanted to fly. They've been flying forever. It's been their one career. I'm looking at your resume notes here. It's pretty impressive on the software engineer side. Google, Amazon, and of course, my favorite, ForeFlight for many years. So tell me just a little bit more about you, your background. And I'm also just curious to learn a little bit more about ForeFlight, actually. So just excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to be here too. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
So, like you said, flying was second career for me. I'm actually still doing the software, like you mentioned. So, it's a cool setup with the air medical and the remote software engineering. They honestly pair very well together. I do run a busy schedule, right? And aviation's my life, no doubt. But it's great. For ForeFlight, I'm doing accounts and commerce, a lot of like security type projects, very similar to what I'd done with those other software companies you mentioned there. And then air medical, I've been doing that for about 1.5 years now here in Indiana with Parkview Samaritan.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you're actually still with ForeFlight as we speak.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that was I didn't know that was a to the present situation. So that's, you are a busy guy. But you're right. I mean, the air medical schedule is, a beautiful thing in the aspect that, you can do other things. I actually started my business flying air medical. What's your air medical schedule? Is it typical 7 on, 7 off type of situation?
It is. Yeah. We do 3 days, 4 nights, and then 7 off. So
I like the 3 and the 4 look. I did not have that luxury. We were just 7 and 7, and it was either 7 days or 7 nights. And I think my air medical career, which wasn't very long, just a couple years, maybe would have been extended a little bit if I would not have to fly consistent nights, even if it's just once a month. I just hated it. I honestly did. How have you navigated the nights?
Yeah, the nights are the worst. I agree with you. The managing the fatigue can be difficult. I imagine the 3 and 4 helps. I haven't done 7 nights in a row consistently. So Yeah. Navigating it, I just think like taking a perspective of responsibility and going into those night shifts of being ready for that worst night where you're going nonstop is really key.
Yeah, I think so too. My problem is I'm a weird person. That goes without saying. But my issue is I could maybe only fly two times in the night hitch, right? But just the anticipation that I might be flying kept me up all night.
Mm,
And then during the daytime, I'm just not a good daytime sleeper. My body's like, dude, the lights out. I don't care about the curtains. You ain't going to sleep. So it was very hard for me. Even on my best effort, I would get really just fatigued. Unless it was a horrible weather night or the helicopter was down for maintenance, then my brain would allow me to shut down and actually sleep. But other than that, I mean, I can't tell you how many nights I laid in the air medical bed not flying at all, but definitely not sleeping. And that was
yes.
challenging, man. And producer Zach, who's on, he always would say, "Oh man, I hit the pillow and I'm out." And I'm like, that's not my experience. What about you? Do you fall asleep pretty well?
In the beginning, it was really tough. I think I'm getting more comfortable with the base, the crew, the job, and that's helping. I agree with one thing you said there about like when there's times where the base is out of service, whether it's maintenance or weather or staffing, those can be huge, especially when they're in the middle of a rotation, right? Um, but it's getting better. It can be hard, especially when you lay down, get a call, lay back down for 20 minutes, get another call, you know. So
It's crazy.
yeah,
Look, I'm a firm believer that humans were not made for that, right? And
right.
God bless the med crew because a lot of those folks have been doing that, in the back of an ambulance or in a hospital for, 20, 30 years. And it shows, right?
Right.
A lot of my med crew that I worked with, wonderful humans, great people, not the healthiest all the time. And I think it's that lifestyle. Impressive though at falling asleep in crazy spots. I had one medic that could like on command fall asleep. We would be like, I forget what it was one time. It was we were in something very uncomfortable. Oh yeah, some hospital chair. We got stuck essentially at a pad for weather, and we're in this horribly uncomfortable hospital, uh, like not cafeteria, but where the staff will come and eat, the kitchenette. And man, this is so uncomfortable. These chairs, it's cold, and man, he's just over there, passed out. I'm like, oh, Russell, I hate you. Uh, I wish I had that. I just could never sleep. So that was hard for air medical. So you're a software engineer guy. You're still software engineer guy.
Yep.
But when did the two come together? I mean, have you always been flying helicopters and doing software engineering, or was it full time engineer and then you started helicopters? What is it, simultaneous or chicken egg first, whatever?
It's been simultaneous the whole time. So back around COVID, maybe just before is when I started to get into the helicopter training. And that I think might have been what contributed to the opportunity to do the training and really be quick with it was the software job. That was Google at the time. They said, hey, everybody needs to go remote. And helicopter training was something that kept going, never stopped, right? It's essential. Our industry is essential. And so I started to do the training. Eventually, it seemed like that job was starting to want employees to move back. And by then I was out in Indiana learning to fly. And I learned about ForeFlight, loved that it mixes software with aviation. And so that was about the time then I switched to ForeFlight and continued from there. So simultaneous the whole time.
Man, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
COVID was an advantage for you on that. It's funny to hear everyone's kind of COVID stories. Some people were wrecked by it. They had they were miserable at home and things like that. COVID for me was kind of benign. Where I was kind of affected by everyone, but I quit everything to just focus on selling helicopters, and I was freaked out, but it just worked. I just kept my head down, and I don't know. It kind of felt like a little blip for me, and I don't feel like I experienced it. I was listening to a book the other day. God forbid I would read one, but I listened to a lot of books. That's kind of more my style. This is embarrassing. The book is the autobiography with Mark Hoppus. He's one of the members of Blink 182, and I love Blink-182. So I'm like, oh, I want to listen to this book and this is fascinating. And he was talking about his miserable COVID experience. And it's like, yeah, well, you got a ton of money and you just sat at home and did nothing. Like, of course, that's miserable. So I'm guessing for you, COVID was maybe kind of not fun, but to be able to have a steady job where you can work from home and still get paid, incredible. And you can go to flight school. I mean, that's a win-win, brother.
It was. Yeah.
It's also crazy to me that, here we are in 2025. That's like 5 years ago for you. And now you're flying, what, 169, single pilot IFR, air medical. Your trajectory has been very quick. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've just been really lucky to have some great mentors through my helicopter career so far. During that training in COVID, there's a guy named Gary Cleveland in Indiana, and he teaches independently. Yeah, he took me under his wing, helped me knock out the rest of my training, kept me around, mentored me as a CFI, and I think that really accelerated my growth. And then there's another a DPA named Jeff Schorsch. He was the one who gave me all my check rides and things, but he was the director of ops for a while for Sweet Aviation or Sweet Helicopters, who is the helicopter side of Parkview Samaritan, and he opened some great doors for me. So I think I think I was really lucky in terms of mentors, and then also just staying ambitious and trying to stay a step ahead, I think is really key. Like what's the next job or opportunity or goal? I think that helped a lot.
And was the goal always air medical for you?
It was, yeah.
And absolutely. Are you from Indiana?
So I grew up in Colorado, not far from the Air Force Academy, and so I'd see a lot of helicopters flying over. And growing up, I had the dream of being a helicopter pilot. I think at one point I got into tech and may have sort of dismissed that goal and went the software route. But then I went on a tour in Alaska, and that really sparked the interest again. So
that's kind of where you recaught that bug.
Exactly.
Or I guess not recaught it, but really kind of ignited that. And that's funny. Was it with Temsco? Because I know that you ended up flying for Temsco.
Yeah, it was. That was a full circle.
That moment. Is full circle. So tell me about that. That's always kind of that. It's been a while for me on that kind of that first journey from CFI to getting that, what I call entry level, but still very awesome, cool job flying tours. Mine was Maverick. It sounds like yours is Temsco. Mine was a little indirect too. I did the CFI route, and then I was in Texas chasing a girl for a couple of years, finding my feet, doing some flying stuff, but not a ton of stuff, and then more flying stuff, and then that didn't happen. So then I ended up at Maverick. So a little bit of a detour, but it seems like you're a direct guy, like you're just going for it. So you get your hours as a CFI. What was was the goal? Like, hey, I want to get back up to Temsco where this whole dream was ignited?
I just love helicopters so much, and I was so excited through training and the start of my career for what was next. And Temsco, similar to Maverick, was that your initial turbine time?
Yeah, pretty much. So I had a turbine. I flew 135 off the line stuff for Hillsboro Aviation back in the day. I had 27 hours of turbine time when I left Hillsboro. And so when I entered Maverick, I had 27 hours.
Okay. Yeah, so that's very similar.
It's like 9 years into my career, by the way, too. So when I'm hearing this, like I started flying helicopters in COVID, and then now I'm flying at 169. Part of me thinks you're awesome. Part of me hates you, but I'm just kidding. But I mean, it just mine was a very long, extended path. But I learned in Oregon to fly, and I loved Oregon. I still do. In fact, I live in Oregon again now. And my family was there, and so I worked management for a long time. I felt like, okay, maybe I'll just be a flight school guy forever, and I was totally content. But then the turbine itch was, it was starting to really be quite palpable. So that's kind of what started the whole thing. Not to mention, the chasing a girl down to Texas and all that madness. It worked out. She's my wife. We're about to have our first kid. Happy ending. But anyway, I derailed you. Sorry, I
No,
just get
not at
excited.
all.
So
Love
yeah,
to hear it.
zero turbine time really for me. Same with you.
This is for those that are ready to launch their helicopter career training. Hillsboro Heli Academy, the place where pilots from around the world begin their journey. With a real-world experience and a reputation that speaks for itself, visit flyhaa.com because it's different here.
I'd gotten lucky and had a chance to teach a guy in Wyoming who had alouettes and llamas.
Oh my gosh.
That was the very initial turbine, but then Temsco was where I got to, for the first time, regularly fly them, and that was a huge pull. Somebody named Jessica Maris. I don't know if you've met her.
Oh, I see her quite often on LinkedIn. I think, in fact, she commented on my LinkedIn status today, I think.
Okay. Yeah. She's been my instructor and really helped direct me through different transitions in the career. We've been sort of parallel in our careers, each, making that initial turbine transition step at the same time. She now has just started flying air medical as well. And so she had shared a lot about possible places to go for turbine time. I obviously was somewhat familiar with Temsco, hadn't done that tour by then, but so I think it was the summer of 2022, I went up there and flew a season and really loved it. Oh my gosh, some of the most fun flying I've done, hands down.
That's so cool. Yeah, I got buddies that, I've never even been to Alaska. It's like that one great white buffalo that I never really had. And then I have kind of a fear of taking tour helicopter rides as a passenger. So even I'm like, oh man, if I ever go to Alaska, I don't really want to do a tour because I don't want to be a passenger.
Yeah.
It's like a weird control thing. So I just have to get over that because I want to fly, at least get the experience Alaska. I think it would be incredible. And yeah, speaking of LinkedIn, I mean, you're super popular, man. Jessica's commenting. I'm guessing it's because of you. You got a shout out from this other guy, Nicholas, saying that you're awesome and that you're a great guest and super professional. So, man, you're helping my LinkedIn feed gain some traction today. So, appreciate that. Well, that's cool. You get up to Temsco. What's that interview like? What was that process like? Big first turbine. Did you have the first turbine jitters? Kind of talk me through that.
Well, I think a lot of jobs in the helicopter industry come from who you know, and this was one of those cases, I think, where I'd met the safety officer for Temsco previously, and he helped connect me with them. And so, of course, I did the interview and everything, but it sure helps to have a good reference that you trust. And so the interview side, to be honest, I don't remember the interviews all that much. Something I do remember vividly was the initial training. Temsco, unlike any company I've worked for before, we had 2 whole weeks just dedicated where we were like a week of ground together and then just nonstop flying with your stick buddy out in the cove and Ketchikan, doing all sorts of maneuvers in the A-Star. And that was one thing that really stood out as a highlight of Temsco, is that you could tell they were really contributing to the industry with these turbine transitions and making sure that the pilots were ready to go.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. I mean, that's super cool. I've had lots of buddies at Temsco and Coastal and other Alaska operations. Are they kind of all under the same ownership now or something like that?
They are. Yeah, that's right. Temsco, North Star, and Coastal. Right.
Yeah, super cool. Great experience. And honestly, fairly tricky stuff. One of the things that I think that really was not great for me in my careers, I never really flew in weather, right? I was really much a VFR, Bluebird flyer, really. I mean, that's just how it all worked out for me. In flight school, they're super conservative. And then even at flying in Texas, it was always nice. Flying at the Grand Canyon, always nice. So I never got to experience any type of inclement weather, honestly, vividly, that I could remember and gain on and feel comfortable with. And I always had buddies that, had gone up to Temsco or Coastal or North Star or whatever. And they had flown in some soup, lower vis, lower clouds, all legal, of course, but definitely, on the margin of VFR and IFR, and did it safely and comfortably and kind of built that eyesight, right? Almost built that area for it. And I never got that. And so your 3 miles is like my 7, right? Like I don't feel comfortable when it's hazy, right? And so even recently I did a ferry flight from Toronto down to Reno and caught some weather along the way, flying with a buddy that actually flew at Temsco many years ago, was also an IFR helicopter pilot. But, we were flying in lower vis, and actually at one point we did turn around and land because it just was getting real. It wasn't getting safe anymore. So we turn around. That's great. But then the second leg, it just was right on that verge again. And he was totally fine. And I was like on pins and needles the whole time. But it was legal. It was safe. It's just, I don't have that sight picture. So did you have some kind of weather experience at Temsco?
I did. Yeah. We had, so we would fly, it wasn't formation flight, but we'd have a whole line of helicopters going out to the glacier at a time. At our base, it was between 3 and 5. And so, yeah, I mean, with the whole, we'd have this big board full of flights, really excited tourists wanting to see the glacier. We'd have tourists out on the glacier waiting for us to go pick them up. And so there certainly was that operational pressure and like self-induced pressure to complete the flights. And so we were managing that. And there were times when we'd turn around. I think even the year I was there, a couple helicopters got stuck overnight on the glaciers. So being Alaska, yeah, tons of low overcast, low vis weather, but it was invaluable and really helped with those days now where weather's iffy, just being able to relate to that past experience.
Yeah, it's in your toolbox, right? That's what I always
Absolutely.
tell people, like, man, you got to put things in your toolbox, even things that are maybe a little uncomfortable.
Right.
And for me, I've got to put a lot of stuff in my helicopter toolbox. Weather and inclement weather was not one of them, which is silly, right? I mean, that's like an important part of flying. I go and fly air medical in Texas, work for a company that enables good decisions or even overly conservative.
Yeah.
So like nighttime, dew point, convert, like close to converging. I'm like, nah, I'm not going. Like, I don't care that it's clear now. I know how this story ends, especially in South Texas. You learn very quickly that the second they touch, it's like fog. So you have that knowledge, but just being very conservative. I never felt pressured. But I definitely think I turned down flights or turned around flights sooner than most because I just didn't have the sight picture. And, you think like 3 miles, if you don't know anything, 3 miles is a long way, that's a lot that's a long distance to see 3 miles. But then when you're up there and it's 3 miles visibility, you're like, I can't see anything. Right.
Right.
Or at least that's my perception. My question from at Temsco, I'm guessing there's a lot of mentorship and guys and gals that have been around the patch a bit. How do you not become overly complacent in the other direction to where you just almost kind of start pushing the weather too much?
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway secret word. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's secret word is downwash. Visit contest.verticalhelicast.com to enter the secret word.
Yeah, great question. Well, so there's like Temsco is a member of the TOPS program, the larger organization which has a lot of tour operators, and through TOPS as well as just the company itself, there's different levels of minimums, and so those would typically be higher, I would say, than pilot personal minimums from what I could tell. And so that, as well as I think there was a lot of like leading by example. So we would have our base lead, there'd be different levels of management. And so paying attention to what others were willing to fly in, not wanting to be the one to get somebody stuck on the glacier or get stuck on the glacier doesn't sound fun. So I think, yeah, just awareness and there were, once you spook yourself, then that really stays with you. And so I think I had flights where I would try to get up there and the cloud, we'd be socked in, wouldn't be able to get through any of our little valleys to get to the ice and have to turn around. And it's not fun telling the tourists, hey, we've got to turn around. It's a lot easier to be that responsible pilot on the ground at base and say, hey, look, we're not going to be able to make it up. So yeah, I think
that's good. I like that idea too. I like how you say like where company minimums exceed personal, right? Which I think is huge. That's how my air medical experience was, right? The minimums for AEL at the time, I don't remember what they were, but they were actually even more conservative than my over conservative self, which made me feel good. But I know in Alaska, it's like it can get pretty intense. Weather can come in quick, and I think that's just really neat experience that you got. Something that you've talked about a couple of times already here in the short time we've chatted is, connecting with mentors, chatting with people. Seems like a common denominator for you to be as someone that's networking. You caught my eye on LinkedIn. I think that people that are avidly posting on LinkedIn, in my opinion, is a great way of connecting with other professionals. It's something that I do, something that I'm trying to get better at, actually, and I'm glad I am because I get to chat with people like you. But what has networking been for you, and how would you recommend a young professional helicopter pilot, or maybe a middle-aged new helicopter pilot, how him or her could kind of use the networking to their advantage to be able to get to TEMSCO, to be able to fly the 169 fairly quick? Not that you haven't earned it, of course, your hours or everything and that level as well. But, obviously some good networking on your end. What's your encouragement there?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, I'm an introvert, and in the beginning, networking was this huge, scary process of, put yourself out there, maybe look bad, get rejected. And so there's a lot of I think things that can stop people from networking. But having done it enough now, really it's just meeting people, making potential friends, and opening up opportunities down the road. So for people out there, I think, who are maybe a little afraid to get their voice out there and meet people and network, just start doing it, and it kind of leads you there. And now that I'm starting to get more experience, and I feel like, not to say inexperienced pilots don't have something to share with the industry, but especially now that I'm starting to get experience in different places and have thoughts and opinions on topics in the industry and the world, I really feel like there's a responsibility and a commitment I've made to help others and just shape the way that helicopters, the whole helicopter industry moves in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. Right. As you gain more knowledge, you become comfortable in contributing, really,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
I don't know anything. I can't contribute to anything other than helicopters. It's all I know, right?
Right.
You could probably have a podcast on software engineering as well, right? I can't contribute to that. I don't know anything about it. So yeah, it's all about, getting there. And it's interesting you say you're introvert. I can see that a little bit. I consider myself to be an extrovert. I'm annoying. I wear my emotion on my sleeve. I'll tell you all about myself. So maybe that's narcissism too. I don't know. But it's even then, though, it's still hard to network sometimes. But networking to me has been my biggest power tool, right? It's just accelerated everything that I've done. And so I definitely introvert, extrovert, you got to put yourself out there, right? And for an extrovert, sometimes you might need to tone yourself back a little bit. Sometimes I come off like a little too amped, right? It's like, oh, Halsey drank too much coffee today. So I have to tone myself back. But, it's neat. I've never been someone that lacks in feeling comfortable in talking or being outlandish, being in front of people or talking here on the podcast even. So I can imagine if you are a little bit of an introvert, which it sounds like you are, that's even more challenging. So, kudos to you stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that's what life is all about. Not just in aviation, but, life is uncomfortable, and, you have to put yourself out there. Talking about contributing to the industry, What are some things right now that you're excited to be contributing? What are topics that you have opinions on? You said that you have opinions on things. I'm putting you on the spot so you could just say nothing or come up with something good, but I'm guessing you have things to say and I want to hear it.
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter is back at EAA AirVenture 2025 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Join Instrom the week of July 21st at booth number 333 for a special showcase of the 280FX and the brand new fully loaded 480B Elite model. Find tickets online on the EAA website.
Yeah, one thing I'm really excited about is this VAI Emerging Professionals community that has been put together here in the last maybe 6 months or so. It's something that was announced at Verticon this year, and it's a group for new pilots out there, and not just pilots, but new members of the vertical community. And we're really advocating for anything that would help new professionals. So a few examples are like we have this community forum online that's opened up where new members can go in and post any questions they have, network with other vertical professionals. And then there's even other things like we just announced resume workshops. So you can go on there and just submit interest, and somebody from one of the sectors of the industry that you're interested in can help and give feedback. And then other things like we'll have some webinars later this year. I'm really excited about that initiative because I think that right now in the industry, a lot of, I'll just narrow in on pilots. Like pilots will go to flight school and it seems like they'll either get hired at the school that they went to or have to go find some potentially risky or unfavorable job out there, whether it's tours or ag flying. And it just doesn't seem right for, to go spend all this money on flight school, put in all this effort. I've listened to podcasts of yours before where talking about some of the challenges of flight school, right? And I just don't think it's. I think that having members of the community who have been through it and are experienced with it, coming together to create resources, I think that's a huge way to just improve the career track altogether.
What I really appreciated about this whole thing, and I'm learning all this as you're talking about it, this is a new thing to me, but I think it's neat. One of my critiques of formerly HAI and now VAI, and of course Verticon being the show that VAI puts on, but I never thought personally, and I've expressed this openly before, even in my pre-Verticon episode I did, is I thought that maybe VAI, Verticon, formerly HAI, didn't do a great job at connecting with like the next wave of helicopter professionals, whether it be pilots, mechanics, whatever it may be. And I only say that because like when I was learning to fly, when I was early in my career, I never felt like at that time HAI was speaking to me. In fact, I didn't even know what HAI was at all. And I think that's bad, right? I think like, man, this is a huge thing, which is dedicated to serving the helicopter industry. And you have a large sector of the industry, which is new to it, that might not be familiar. And I think it's really cool that VAI is coming together with people like you for this emerging professionals, because I think it really is now opening up a new sector of where VAI can have a positive impact. HAI, now VAI has had tremendous impact on the industry, whether it's polstering in Washington, D.C., to keep tour operators flying in places like New York and Hawaii, or advocating for us on other things or pay initiatives. But I always felt like the lower level was kind of like the left behind group. So whose idea, how did this all happen, this emerging professionals? Did you approach VAI? Were you approached? I'm just curious.
Somebody from VAI reached out, Shauna. I had made a video before end of last year promoting some of their scholarships, and I think that's how it all ended up getting connected. But they reached out, and just a group of maybe, I think I would say maybe 8 to 10 people in different areas that have just recently, kind of in the same place as me in their career, just been through the early steps and kind of emerged and are now working maybe jobs a little later in their career. So yeah, they reached out, and I'm just so excited about it. And there's other communities too that they have, not just this emerging professionals one. So there's forums for things like, small businesses. I can pull up a list here, but they have all sorts of different communities that are definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. I think that at the end of the day, this is what this is, right? Community. It's an industry. That's what I love actually about Verticon. I was talking about it before the show. Like, I love going there because it's like the bar where everyone knows your name, right? At least for me, I get to feel pretty special for those few days because I know all these people. These are people that I've hung out with for years, people that I've worked with, people that I don't know but recognize me from the podcast, which is always super fun and engaging. It's just such a cool place, but it's always like that camp high, right? Like, it's cool in the moment, but then it kind of cools off. And so the fact that now there's these forums and these things that survive the show, so to speak, I think it's really neat. So if I'm a young professional, which I'm clearly not with a gray beard and all, how do I get involved in connecting with you and the rest of the people in this emerging professionals group?
Yeah, the beard looks good, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it's not just for young professionals either. We initially had thought about calling it like the Young Professionals Group or something like that, but we changed it to emerging because we want to be really inclusive with anybody. There's people out there who are later in life, just getting started in the industry, and we want to include them as well.
So important. And I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
In fact, previous podcast, I had Terry Blakemore on. He's now the CEO of Quantum. This guy was an F-16 driver and then a developer and real estate guy. Then he started flying helicopters, and now he's, owns and is the leader at Quantum. Talk about a second career. Oh my gosh. But there's so many people. And I think the podcast is awesome for that, by the way. And this is why it's great to have people like you on, because people can see like, oh God, Matt had probably a good career making good money, but he was able to do both and go and become a helicopter pilot. So I'm glad that you said that. Sorry, I derailed you. How do we connect?
Yeah, how we connect. So VAI on their homepage has links to these communities, and I think that's the first place to go. There'll be a lot of updates shared in there in these threads in this forum about what's going on. We're going to have meetups at different events, aviation events, so not just at Verticon, things like Oshkosh, Sun and Fun, all the big aviation events, just to create a space that's welcoming to new professionals. And so, yeah, I think that's the number one spot. And then just kind of keeping an eye out for some of these resources, right? Like the resume building, and then following the podcast, me, other members of the community, of the committee, for updates about what's going on.
I'm looking at your resume here. It's actually the second time I've made a comment on a podcast recently about a resume that I'm impressed with. Looks great. I think that the resume is like it's like the forgotten document sometimes. I feel like in this generation, maybe. I feel like, how old are you? May I ask?
I'm 28.
Oh, geez, you're a kid. So I'm 36, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like maybe the resume is dying a little bit, right? And so I feel like our young people might have a hard time. To me, it's crazy. It's like not that hard of a document. It's a one-pager about you. But again, it's not always intuitive. I'm looking at your resume right in front of me here. What I love about it, it's clean. I've always suggested too with helicopter pilots, put your times up top. And to me, that's like the most important thing. What do companies really want to see at first? They want to see, is this resume worth reading because they meet the minimums, right? If they don't meet the minimums, maybe I put your resume aside, and next year when you send it to me again and you have some more flight hours, then I'll read the rest. Then it goes into your certificates, your work experience. I have to say it's formatted nicely. It's well sequined. And I like that you have references on there. I don't like the references upon request. I don't know. I've never been a fan of that. Anytime that I'm hiring someone, I like to be able to pick up the phone and, like call them, and chat
Yeah,
and learn.
absolutely.
Looks like Jessica, she has a 503. Is she from Oregon?
She lived in Oregon at one point.
Nice.
Yeah.
The 503. That's awesome. No, great resume. And to the young, I'm going to speak to the young professionals because I think maybe some of the seasoned professionals might do better at this, but don't discount the resume. The resume is so important. Some of the mistakes that I made also was my logbook. My logbook was always chaotic. My logbook probably looks like my brain, which is chaos sometimes, right? There's just a lot going on. I mean well, and so did my logbook, but it wasn't kept nicely. It has stressed me out through my entire career because I always felt like my logbook was actually a reflection of who I was, maybe as a pilot. Maybe my disorganization within my logbook would show a potential chief pilot that, hey, maybe this guy's like not organized. Wasn't really the case. I just don't have nice writing. I didn't use the same color pen. I would scratch things out. I didn't think it was important in that beginning stage, and it got better and better and better. But that would just be my advice to folks that are just getting into flying. I feel like the logbook is so important in keeping up to date, which is like a do as I say, not as I've done. I've just been horrible with that. Thank God I don't think like full-time flying is in my future for the purpose that I never have to worry about putting my logbook in a proper place. It's so silly to say, but that's something that I struggled on. So, I think it's really neat to have resources where you could send your resume to a guy like Matt and say, hey, pick it apart. How can I do better? Right? Matt's a guy that's got the jobs that he's got. He's now flying single pilot IFR in a 169. I mean, incredible. So it's so cool to be able to have that resource. So I'm really happy to hear that VAI is doing that. And a big shout out to VAI as their sponsor of the Helicopter Podcast. So we really appreciate that relationship. Verticon 2025 was a blur. I had the flu the entire time. I think I was the super spreader because I think a lot of people got sick and they got symptoms on Friday. I hate to say it. I was feeling it on Tuesday. So bit of a rough show. I made it through. It was an incredible show. R88, 140. I got to interview David about the 88. I got to interview the program manager and test pilot for the 140. Awesome show. Tell me your thoughts, Matt. What was Verticon like for you this year?
Yeah, Verticon, it was a blur, maybe in a different way. Just all
no
kinds
flu
of
for
stuff.
you?
No flu, thankfully. Sorry to hear that happen.
Yeah, it's all right. I have the world's worst immune system, so it's just par for course. It's horrible.
But yeah, Verticon was great. I think it seemed to me like the R88 was the hot topic, right? Just Robinson releasing this. I just felt like they're really going out of their box with this new type. The 140, seeing it was really impressive, and I think it's going to make a big impact on the industry. I'll be really interested to see how both of those work out in the long run.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I mean, look, you got two OEMs that have certification experience. To me, the whole dilemma with a lot of things right now is certification.
Yeah.
Robinson, David would tell you, or he explained to me when they were doing the horizontal stabilizer design, 2 years, right? To get that certified, not to include the engineering that went into it before. So it's just, that's the thing that always scares me. It's like, man, we have so much red tape and so much probably unnecessary bureaucracy, but big companies like Boeing have had some missteps that doesn't help with certification. eVTOL, love it or hate it, it's also sucking up a lot of resources. I have no comment, either good or bad, but there is a truth of resources trying to be allocated for drone activity and eVTOL and all these things. And so it does always get me a little worried of like when you see these new innovations, like say the R88 or the 140, it's like, can these OEMs produce? And I think they can. I think that they have a track record, both companies. I think also Airbus is potentially, I think maybe tagging it on to the original kind of type certificate of like the 135 even. So helping that certification process go even quicker. So I'm very excited. I agree with you. And I feel like the R88 was definitely like the crown jewel.
Yeah.
I think order-wise, I don't know. I haven't talked to them. I'm guessing they got a lot of orders. I do know that Airbus got a lot of 140 orders, though, from some of the big air medical. So, big shout out to Airbus and congratulations. What else about Verticon? If I'm someone who's new to the industry and I don't know what this crazy Verticon thing is all about, what would you tell me?
Something I love are the courses that they offer through the day. There's the safety challenge, or they have a new name for it. I think elevations courses or something like that. So there's there's these huge half day or day long courses you can sign up for and take before and during the convention. But there's also short hour long courses through each day. And I think those are huge resources, especially for somebody who's might not be as connected in the community quite yet, or the industry quite yet, to go not just walk around and look at the pretty helicopters and talk to exhibits, but also to go learn about all these different hot topics in the industry. Things from, I went to like a lycoming course about piston engines. I went to a course about SMS and designing safety systems. All these different classes. Yeah, that's something I'd really highlight.
I love that you said that, because I don't highlight that stuff enough. I'm always so busy at Verticon because I'm usually there corresponding or doing something with the podcast. I don't actually take advantage of those learning opportunities. And that's definitely a miss in my opinion. And now as I kind of go further away from like full-time flying, it's probably something I might continue to miss. But I think if you're within the industry and you're pushing hard, it's a great place to go and learn something new. And I'm guessing even within those classes, it's a good opportunity to have some internal networking, right?
Absolutely.
When I go to a safety course for, say, whether it's a Bell School or even Robinson, it's like an intimate kind of smaller class. By the end of it, you're friends. VAI, Amber Harrison of VAI has become a good friend of mine. And that was through the Robinson safety course. So just the networking of being able to do those classes is probably also super cool. So I appreciate you saying that. I want to transition a little bit away from the Verticon topic and two topics to finish us off here. The aircraft that you're flying and the mission that you're flying, pretty incredible, single pilot IFR, and quite possibly the nicest aircraft out there doing it. Was it your program that came into Verticon?
It was, yeah.
That's what I thought, because on your LinkedIn I saw the pic. I'm like, oh, that looks like the same helicopter. Were you flying? Did I talk to you?
Yeah, that bright green one. I got to help fly it home.
So you flew it home. I didn't actually talk to them when they landed because it started raining. It was like the one helicopter that got that. In fact, it almost looked like it was about to hail, and I'm like, oh. Luckily, it did not.
Not good. Yeah.
Luckily, it just rained kind of hard for a second. But right when those guys came in, but yeah, man, what an incredible helicopter. It's the 169, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So tell me about that aircraft. Tell me about the capabilities, what it's like flying, specifically in the IFR environment too.
Yeah, I love it. And you're right there. It really stands out, IFR, with all these advanced, like this displays in it. It's just like you have probably 5 different huge computer screens in front of you, a really simplified panel. They've done a lot of things, like they've moved circuit breakers into this digital circuit breaker system on the touch
super
screen,
cool
EDC displays. So I would say just, a simplified integrated panel. Before this, I was flying the 109 with charters for suite. And it's like they took a lot of separate units on the 109 and put them together into this nice integrated system. Something that on the EMS or HAA side that's nice about the 169 is we have this APU mode that we can run, so we can keep our number one, our left side engine running with the rotor disengaged. It has basically a clutch sort of system.
Yeah.
And so that prevents us getting out on a scene and then not able to start it back up and having to take the patient by ground. We can keep heating or cooling on, so it makes it much more comfortable in the extreme winter or summer. I would say those are the main things that stand out. It has some nuances. I would say like there's an interesting nose wheel lock system where it adds some really critical extra steps to remember, and a lot of vibration. But overall, I love it, and feel really grateful to get to fly it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous machine. So cool. Pushes a lot of air, lots of air moving when that thing came and landed. That's for sure. And hey, this is a benefit for Air Medical. Let me tell you, you don't have any feet next to you, or I'm assuming that you have literally zero patient contact. You know, when I was flying Air Medical, those feet were right next to you, separated with a little kick plate. And it can honestly get a little stinky. It was, they have a bag that they put over the feet, but it was just weird. One time I had a leg in a black garbage bag next to me for transport. A guy lopped his leg off, and we put it in a black garbage bag full of ice, and it was literally like right next to me on the end of his little stretcher. So that's kind of weird flying. Honestly, that took me a bit to like, oh my God, this person right next to me is having a really bad day. There's sounds, there's smells. And so kind of makes Air Medical a little bit more difficult. And so I feel like if you have a little bit of space like you do in an aircraft like the 169, that's really nice. And I'm guessing the med crew, I mean, they could do, cartwheels back there. They probably love it.
They've got a ton of space. Yeah.
That's awesome. One thing that you have in your show notes here is becoming friends with the med crew. I got to be honest, I wasn't so familiar with this negative stigma of becoming friends. I'm glad I became friends with all. I was drinking with we have a good time, right? I was off shift, of course.
Right.
But I mean, we became buddies. And, I had great relationships with my med crew. I know in the past, like there was like self-loading baggage and, but the way that I was raised in Air Medical was, they're part of the crew and we treated them that way. And I became friends. Is that a similar experience for you?
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.
Yeah, for some reason, it just seems like a lot of the pilots I talk to out there will recommend, keep a professional relationship only with the crew. And that's not something that I necessarily agree with. I think that, and a lot of the reason I hear behind it is, you start to make choices that benefit them, that bias you, things like, weather choices or things that might affect their workday. But I think that personally, I would much rather share bad news or hard news with a friend than somebody who's a stranger or some distant workmate. So and a lot of EMS bases out there, they're in small towns kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so there's, in the first place, there's not too many people to connect with. So that's just something I personally have heard and been told to keep some space. And what do you think? Yeah, I mean, you said you're friends with them in the past.
Yeah, for the most part. Look, I had some issues with some. I butted heads with some. Strong personality, right? And if, especially like, man, you question, like if there's a safety reason, I don't like to be questioned. I got to be honest. Like if it's a good safety call that I'm not going, I don't care that you've been a paramedic in the back of a helicopter for 30 years and the other pilot does it. That's a one way that I kind of would pop off a little bit. And that did happen here and there. But by and large, I mean, the way that I always looked at it is like, man, I'm spending a lot of my life with these people, more than I'm seeing my wife. I'm here. We're in this small confined space. We might as well like hang out, talk, learn about each other. I think that's where you build trust. I think maybe you can start to cross lines if you allow yourself to partake in like the tea of the base, right? Some bases have a lot of drama. I was part of a base for a short time that I did find myself at one point getting a little too involved in the drama, of it. And that's a dangerous place to be. And I don't think that that's good. But I think if you can keep it very professional, play video games. I mean, I play video games with the crew. You know, we would watch movies together. We would barbecue for each other. We would make each other meals. We would console each other if we're having a bad day or something sad happened, or there was a hard call, you know. So, you know, look, I think it's personality based. You know, some people are not as willing to, you know, connect or whatever. But I don't think it's inappropriate. I think as long as you have clear boundaries, obviously, I think it's a big no-no to fraternize, you know, to get in any type of like, you know, romantic relationship with med crew. It actually happened at a base that I worked at, and you know that really affected the base culture negatively when it went wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think you have to be careful. You got to stay out of the drama. You always have to be professional and polite. Keep it, you know, PG at all times. And I think if you are just a normal, decent person, then I think it works out well.
Yeah, completely agree with you.
But there's the horror stories. You do got to be careful. And I think for my biggest thing, that I've said it before on the podcast, but it's always worth saying again, the best way that you can get your med crew to respect you is by taking them seriously. You know, for me, when I started air medical, I had this thought, these poor people, man, they got to sit in the back and they got this new guy up front. They know I'm new. I can't hide that fact. So what do I do? And for me, what I did is I was honest with them. Hey guys, I'm new to this job, but I'm not new to helicopters. I've been doing this for, you know, X amount of years. This is the experience that I have, but I'm also really excited to learn from you guys. I know that you guys have been in the back of this helicopter for 10 years now. And I'm really excited to have your knowledge also help me become a better pilot for you guys. And that's how I started those relationships off. And I think it went really well in my favor. And you just build great trust with each other. You respect them. You answer their questions openly and honestly. If they have a concern, you listen. Don't ever get 51%, in my opinion. I think like it should be a crew decision, and no one should have to throw a 51% up. Just my personal thought. I'm glad that it exists, but I think if a 51% is thrown, I think something was missed before. So, you know, I don't know. I'm tangenting and I'm kind of on a soapbox now, but that would be my one thing for, you know, air medical pilots, just getting into it. You know, but man, Matt, wrapping up on an hour, man, already. So good to chat with you.
Yeah.
What a career, man. You're like lightning Matt.
I love it.
Just going so fast. How far along are you in your seaplane training, by the way?
That's something I just started doing for fun on the side.
Knowing you'll be working at Kenmore Air in like 2 months, I bet. You'll be a full-fledged commercial pilot. You'll be a helicopter guy. You'll be a software engineer and a professional seaplane. What's your end goal? Just doing the add-on?
I'm doing the add-on for fun. It's interesting how there's so much crossover and flying between different types of flying, and even just little things about reading the water. I feel like someday that may make a huge difference in the helicopter flying. So yeah,
that's really interesting. My favorite thing, I'm like always showing off to people like, oh, I can tell which way the wind's blowing by watching it on the water. You know, it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, so how many off airports have I done where I'm like, man, that pond right there is my best wind indicator. You know, totally incredible. Seaplanes look awesome. What kind of airplane is it?
So I did the single engine in the 172 down in Florida near Orlando, and it was really fun. It was cool. It felt a little bit like helicopters with the versatility of just be able to land in a lake short where, you know, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
so
no, it's
that
like
off airport feel.
It definitely opens it up.
Yeah.
I know that you're also making videos. You're putting out some cool content. You've even had some recent content really explode on the viewership. So congratulations to you on that. For being an introvert, you're really putting yourself out there. I see you all over LinkedIn. Where can people bump into you online? YouTube, LinkedIn, how do they find you?
Yeah, I've just really trying to be sharing more on LinkedIn and Instagram. I think those are great platforms. LinkedIn being the more professional one, and then Instagram being the platform where it can just really show whatever true colors there are. So those are good spots. And yeah, I'm just loving it, enjoying all these different aviation adventures and trying to share it with everyone else out there.
28 years old, man. You got the world by the kahunas. Congratulations on all your success. Matt, really appreciate you coming on. To our listeners, you got to check out the VAI Emerging Professionals community, especially if you're an emerging professional. This is the beauty of today, guys. I want to shake you a little bit, but none of this stuff existed even just 10 years ago. And so to have all these resources, whether it be videos made by Matt, my podcast, or other cool influencers like Lee Coates or whoever, none of that existed. And it's so neat that people like Matt and other folks within the industry are essentially donating their time to either create content and or connect with you as an emerging professional. This is all about network. So if you take anything out of this episode, go check out the Emerging Professionals. I want to be included, Matt. I got to get invited.
Absolutely.
Come on, VAI, where are we at? I thought we had a thing. Golly, and I'm just kidding. Kind of. Anyway, to our listeners, thank you so much. This is absolutely love doing the Helicopter podcast, and I wouldn't be able to do it if you all didn't listen. So thank you for allowing me to gab for an hour a week. We release every Tuesday. Videos come out Sunday. Make sure that you're checking in with me on social media at Heli Halsey, the Helicopter Podcast, and also just my name, Halsey Schider, on LinkedIn. That's actually kind of my primary source. LinkedIn to me is an incredible platform. So if you want to get out direct to me, it's the best way to contact me. So please give me a follow. Matt, thank you so much. Can't wait to hopefully meet you in person at next year's Verticon in Atlanta. What's up?
Atlanta.
See you guys.
Thanks so much, Harvey.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter is back at EAA AirVenture 2025 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Join Instrom the week of July 21st at booth number 333 for a special showcase of the 280FX and the brand new fully loaded 480B Elite model. Find tickets online on the EAA website.
This is for those that are ready to launch their helicopter career training. Hillsboro Heli Academy, the place where pilots from around the world begin their journey. With a real-world experience and a reputation that speaks for itself, visit flyhaa.com because it's different here.
At Astronautics, we're aviation problem solvers. With over 60 years of OEM and retrofit experience, bring us your toughest avionics, connectivity, cybersecurity, and system challenges. We'll work with you to find an innovative, reliable, and quality solution. We turn problems into solutions. Visit us at astronautics.com.